Hey everybody, this is Workforce Gaming. I am Doug, along with Brad.
Hey, everybody.
And this week, it's basically a lot of confirmations of rumors that have been kind of going around the past few weeks, years. So first of all, just to jump right into it, this is huge news though. So this is kind of why I'm just not doing our general chit chat and just jumping right into it. This whole PS4K thing is very real.
Yeah,
It exists. It's PlayStation Neo.
that's the code name.
That is the
That's
code
not
name.
that's not the official. That's the dev name at this point.
Yeah, a lot of I'm trying to think of like other famous dev names. We always know that I always know the Nintendo ones. The Nintendo ones because it's Dolphin was GameCube, Revolution was Wii, and then I think Xbox 360 was Zephyr, and I can't remember the other one. Really interesting side note: there's characters in Ratchet and Clank. There's these two robot characters that are in the PS3 versions, and they fight a lot, and they're always mad at each other, and they're named after the code names of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
Aw, how cute.
Yes. Ratchet and Clank is amazing. We'll talk about that later. Well, PlayStation 4 Neo is real. Sort of getting into it, one of the big things that they've been pushing is that they're not gonna separate out the PS4 and Neo audiences. They're all gonna use they're all gonna use the same networks. There's not gonna be any special multiplayer just for PlayStation 4 Neo users. All the PS4 games, they have to work on PS4, and they have to work at least as good on PS4 Neo.
That's a sticking point for me
Why is that?
because that's not gonna happen, and that's not true. What's the point of this thing if they're going to run quote just as well? Like running just as well isn't the point that they run better and they look better?
Oh no,
That to me is running better. And didn't isn't there a 60 frames per second limit or requirement for Neo games?
no. So what the thing is that because they're going to be outputting in 4K resolution, because it's four times resolution, so there could be a hit to just general frame rate. What they're talking about is in regards to frame rate. So if you
Well, I
had
understand that, but
mhm.
that's like saying oh, it's going to be the same thing, but no, it's not.
I don't know, what do you mean?
Like one game is going to clearly be better.
Oh yeah. No, the games will look better, but
Yeah.
the whole point is that they're saying is they're not going to be like exclusive content because it's on PS4 Neo. Except
Well, no, I understand the exclusive content thing, but you just said like they're not going to run better. Like to me, looking better means it runs
oh,
better.
sorry. I mean the requirement is they have to run at least as good as PS4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay,
like,
yes,
so
okay.
if your game like if the basically it's like okay, let's say Ratchet and Clank is a good one. Ratchet and Clank, no matter regardless of like how many extra added effects they get in, how many extra resolution they give in, it has to still run at exactly 30 frames per second, like the original PS4 version. So basically, it just seems like this is sort of they're trying at least they're trying to at least not make it a requirement for PS4 users, which I think is okay. Um, you were pretty against this when it's first announced. So what are your thoughts on it now? I mean, there's been a lot more information about it. Like they really aren't splitting anything. Like the PS4 games will still run just as good as they did on PS4. These will just run better. So we're probably gonna get like 60 FPS Bloodborne, 60 FPS Ratchet and Clank, which will look amazing. Um, and basically any 30 FPS is probably gonna be 60 FPS, and any 1080p is probably gonna be 4K.
I don't I don't know. Original like when we talked about this before, I was pretty pissed about it, and I'm still kind of pissed about it. It's one of those things that just seems irritating. I'm not mad about it; it's just irritating. Because now I'm thinking when we get to E3 this year,
Hmm.
okay, they show off God of War 4, or they
Yeah.
show off Horizon now, because I'm assuming Horizon, because Horizon obviously if it comes out post what is it October has to have the Neo function in it.
Yeah, there's even
They
rumors
show
of that one being delayed a little bit. So
Yeah, but they show that off, and now I'm not seeing the game that I'm going to be playing. I'm going to be seeing the Neo version because there's no way in hell they're going to show off the PS4 version anymore. So it's like, okay, now I'm looking at this game going, this isn't the game. This is not what the game I'm playing is going to look like.
that is true. That is the one thing that I was thinking. Like of all this, like I was generally okay with it, but like they're just never gonna. It is like kind of advertising. Like Call of Duty 3, or sorry, Black Ops 3. They didn't advertise the Xbox 360 version. They advertised the
Yeah,
PS4 and Xbox One version, and then like
exactly.
I my thought is that it's not going to take such a huge hit that you'd notice, especially like you're watching YouTube videos and stuff. Like you're watching a YouTube video that's going to be in 1080p. The
Yeah,
Neo version is going to be in 4K. So is the resolution jump that much? Is that going to matter as much to you? Is the 30 to 60 FPS? I know to you, does the 30 to 60 FPS? Because I know whenever we talk about spec stuff, you're like, I don't care.
yeah. I don't care too much about frame rate. The thing to me is like graphic style and
Mhm.
how good does this look, and just I mean, been playing Ratchet and looking at that game and how amazing that looks, and now
Mhm.
okay, you show me that game and you give me a game like even if you did like a side by side, like it's just I'm not playing the game that would be advertised. If they advertise the Neo Horizon and I'm playing PS4 Horizon, I'm not playing the game that was advertised. I'm playing now the quote unquote last gen version. It's not as pretty. It's maybe it's running slower, which I don't know. I've never been good at picking out frame rates anyway, unless it's
Mhm.
a huge stuttering mess. So I don't know. There's just something about that where it's feeling like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm still playing the same game, but I'm playing the last half gen game.
But like, what's your worst case scenario? Like, just imagine for a second. Like, just tell me like, what is the worst case scenario? Because I honestly like, because to me, I in my head, I think it's just going to be mostly resolution and frame rate for a while at least. I'll say it's probably for a while. It'll just be resolution and frame rate. But even like the worst case scenario, I'm just thinking of like a PC game on medium versus high settings. Like even now, that isn't a huge difference.
Yeah.
Some people disagree with me, but a lot of it has to do with image quality and frame rate
Yep.
versus like actual art assets.
Yeah. My issue is 2 years down the road.
Okay.
When now we've gotten past the point where it's just, oh, these are basically just up-resed games because I mean, I'm assuming some of these games that have been in development for forever didn't know this was coming, and it's just going to be
Yeah.
more of like, oh crap, we got to tick the up-res box, or there's probably a lot more coding
It's
and crap
just
that
that
goes into
easy.
that. It's you just click that box and it looks prettier.
You just have
Now
to put
there's
settings in your game and you just click the box. It's so
and it's so
simple.
much easier. No, but like because that's what it's going to be until probably this time next year.
Hmm.
Even getting into holiday 2017 is when you're really going to start to see people push products on the Neo.
Yeah.
But when you get to that point, I'm just thinking like, okay, there have been times where I've played the last gen quote unquote port of a game or something,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when you
yeah.
start designing for Neo and then you're working backwards on this, I'm just afraid you're going to start to see those kind of half-assed like yeah, you're not half-assing content and you're not getting like the half content games, but you're going to get okay, we clearly just didn't put as much effort into optimizing this here as we did for here because this is what we really want to push. We want to make it look the best and it's going to look the best on Neo. The PS4 one will just kind of shamble together at the end.
And that is really curious because like right now, like as not we're not developers, but like if you're thinking as developer, like which one do you build for? Like, do you want when you're advertising your game, you want your game to look the best and play the
Yep.
best, like when you're showing it at shows and stuff like that. But really, most people have a PS4 have a PS4, and most people aren't going to have a PS4 Neo. So that I am really curious about of which one they're if they're going to start with the PS4 as the best looking, not do like the PS4 Neo as like an add-on, like after either build for the PS4 Neo or build for the PS4, and I'm really curious what they're gonna choose. Are you gonna buy the Neo? Like thinking now, like I mean if they because right now I'm thinking that they're gonna have some insane trade-in deals.
They're not. That's not going to happen. There's no reason to do that.
Why
Why on
wouldn't there
earth would
be?
they do that? Because why? Who wants the PS4 at this point?
People who don't have a PS4
But why would you buy this, knowing that the same one does the same thing but better?
because
Why?
it's $200 now. I think that there's
But okay,
yeah.
yes. Now if they announce some crazy ridiculous price cut where PS4 now is 199 and PS Neo is what was it 399 I think was the
Yeah,
rumored
yeah, yeah.
price. You announce that, okay, then yeah, but still that trade in then you're trading in for what like $50 like
Oh no, no. What I think it is, I think the PS4 is going to be 300. But then use okay. So here's my thought on it. It's like okay, why would anybody buy a PS4 at that point? A PS4 4K. PS4 is still a luxury item. It still costs $400, and a lot of people just don't have
yeah,
$400.
agreed.
So once you just start flooding the market with used PS4 consoles, I think a lot of people are going to start picking up PS4s. I don't think a Neo just suddenly makes like somebody I don't know who doesn't maybe just like a college student or something like that who couldn't afford a PS4 now. PS4K comes out. Like I'm in the mindset of like me like 5 years ago or something like that. If
Yeah, no,
if
I
PS4
understand.
4K, I was like, oh my god, this is a perfect time to get a PS4 once that comes out because PS4 is going to be dirt cheap. So I don't think it's really going to hurt the market like people think. And I could see a trade. I'm still thinking it's going to be a trade in deal thing for like get two
That's
hundred
not
dollars
gonna.
off.
But who's gonna do that? Like who's gonna go through and do that? Because if you're thinking trade-in deals, then if they drop the price to 200 for the PS4 and GameStop's gonna give you 200 for your
That's
PS4,
assuming they drop it. I don't think they're going to drop the
okay, well
PS4
even if
price
they
to
don't drop
200.
it, it's selling right now for what 299 I think,
I
or
thought
is
it
it
was three
two?
nine. I think
Is
it's
it
still
three?
399.
Is it 349?
Oh,
I thought
three
there was a
forty
little
nine.
bit,
It's definitely 349.
but if GameStop's that means GameStop's probably reselling them for 250. They're not going to give you $200 and make a $50 cut off of it. Like that's not a good business model for them.
They might. I have no idea. They
It's
may
not
or
going to
may not.
happen. There's no benefit for them.
I mean, I don't think, I guess the long and short of it, like, I would not pay for this just completely out of pocket, like $400 or whatever it is. But if there was some sort of like, okay, early, they're gonna do something. They've got to do something with it.
They
Like,
won't.
you
They
don't
won't.
think so? This whole like for the players campaign they've been running, it's like we really appreciate that you guys have been doing this, and you know,
There's no business sense for them to do it. It makes zero sense for them business wise, because then they're giving you any of the profit they would have made on a Neo. So essentially, they came out.
oh, that's true.
You know what I mean? They're coming out like basically these. What is it, like 30 million now? I think they've sold, or 40 million.
Something crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Ridiculous amounts. All of those people now are essentially getting a Neo for just Sony's essentially probably selling them at cost or losing money if they're doing a trade-in deal, and that's not why they're doing this.
I guess that's true. I'm curious. I'm still gonna call it. I'm calling it now that there's gonna be a trade. Okay, if there was a trading deal, would you get it?
Depends on how much.
Okay, I think that's what's gonna get to. I know, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm thinking like right now it's like $200. Sure, I could do $200. Probably sell my PS4 to a friend or something.
But see, you're thinking you're gonna get this brand new thing for $200, and there's no way in hell that's gonna happen.
I'm gonna get this thing for 200. I think at the end of all this, I'm gonna get this thing for $200. Although, man, PS4 VR, PSVR is coming, NX is coming. There's gonna be a lot of things coming soon that's gonna make this scene. I don't know. I'd rather get an NX. I think that's what my purchase is gonna go to first.
But see, you're never gonna get this for 200. You're gonna get it for 200 in 2018 when they announce the PS5. Because now we're in 3-year cycles.
I'm gonna get that thing. I'm gonna get it for $200. That's all I'm gonna say. That's like the price point in my head. Like, okay, I would upgrade for that much.
It's not.
Speaking of PSVR, we're never gonna agree on that. This is gonna be a really contentious thing until they at least announce it. Okay, this is gonna be a really contentious thing until we actually see what it is. When they announce it, I guess at E3. That E3 announcement is gonna be super weird.
I'm hoping they're just going to scrap this, because there's so much negative reaction to this. Mm-hmm. I hope they're just like, yeah, we heard you guys, you're right, this is kind of a dick move.
No, we heard you guys. $200 rebate.
Nobody's gonna do that.
I'm gonna do it. I hope so. That's the only way I could see this thing selling buttloads or boatloads or whatever loads. Because seriously, to buy a 4K, because you need a 4K TV to even like take advantage of most of this stuff. Like, I'd rather have 1080p games and 60 FPS.
And that's the point, is that what they're doing is they're just gonna say, we sold 40 million of these at $300 or at $400. Good job, us. Okay, original PS4, that's $200. Let's sell 40 million more, and maybe we sell 5 million of these PS4Ks. But it gives us the reason to drop the price of the PS4. We can start selling that probably at cost. And now we're making money on the PS4K, which, yeah, we're not making as much, but our software base is going to be so huge from these budget PS4s now. And I really think that's what they're going for with this. And there's going to be no rebate, and it's going to be, if you want the fancy one, you got your 4K TV, you can afford a 4K TV, you can afford $400.
That's probably true. That's probably their logic. It's like, but to me, this is like the $600 PS3. Like, that's what this is.
It is PS3 era Sony at its finest, where it's like, we're untouchable. We can do whatever the hell we want, and you guys are gonna pay for it.
It's really gonna depend how this all gets announced. I think that's good. Because the negative tone, like they're aware of it. I'm sure they're aware of it. They're gonna have to be. They're gonna have to react to this one. I have no idea how they're gonna react to it. And there's been a lot of like weird back and forth of like how devs are feeling about it. Nobody really knows, and some devs like it and some devs don't. We don't really know because it hasn't been officially announced yet, and everybody's under NDA, so nobody can say anything about it. Anyway, speaking of other Sony related hardware, PSVR is going to be demoed at GameStop.
GameStop is the store. GameSpot is the website. I do that every time I attempt to go to one of their websites.
Yes, or type it out in our outline. So GameStop, we actually talked about this a lot. Like we're kind of both on. Like I'm kind of excited about PSVR, and you're kind of like, well, I need to play it. So I'm kind of excited to try it out at GameStop. I know there's not much more to it. I think I'm really hoping that they're gonna start putting those things out around this. I want to see like the NX and the PSVR next to each other. You know, not next to each other, but like all the info out about them, and then I can sit there and decide. Because I feel like right now NX is just like NX and Neo are both sort of this like weird nebulous idea of a thing that we don't really know about. While PSVR is like just something. Well, I just gotta try that. I can't imagine all the greasy high schooler foreheads on those things.
That was my one thought with this, and this is the this is the only possible way I was gonna buy one is if I can actually try it somewhere. But thinking about this, it's like going to a store and trying on hats. Like I don't.
That's true.
I don't know if I want to just go try on this big fancy hat that's been touched by hundreds of people and probably not cleaned very well.
Yeah, especially I'm not going to make like broad generalization about GameStop crowds because I also go to GameStop, but I hope they clean that thing. I hope they have a very special GameStop version. They have special PS4s for GameStops and like Best Buys and stuff, so they must have some sort of special self-cleaning bottle of ointment.
Just takes 3 hours and smells bad like your oven.
Oh God, it's gonna be so bad. Anyway, so PSVR. Well, but we're both. I'm more excited than you are, but I think I can't wait to try that out. I think that'll be such a good, interesting conversation. We both try it out.
Yeah.
So Xbox 360 is discontinued. This is kind of weird. I always like this news because I think PS2 was discontinued like 3 or 4 years ago, and like you always hear like, oh, it's like when they actually finally stopped making these things. I always think it's kind of exciting. Kind of interesting because you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize like people still bought Xbox 360s or people still bought PS3s or PS2s. We've talked a little about this before, but like the latest FIFA, I think 2015 came out on PS2. Like that is freaking mind blowing. That people still play these games. So I think this actually feels a little bit early, almost.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think again with like Neo and the rumors of Xbox One having an upgraded system too, I think it's the shorter lifespan. We're done with the system. We're gonna put even the slimmest amount of money into the system 10 years after it's released. It's just we're past that point now. I mean, 360 was what 2005 or 2005, 2006,
yeah, 5, 6ish. I'm thinking 7 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because it would have been with the middle of the time we were in high school. Yeah, I don't know. It's always sad. See, it's interesting that you're excited about it. It's always sad to me because it's like, man, had some good times with that little white box.
Oh yeah, I was a Sony. Like I say, fanboy, but I buy PlayStation systems, so I just never had an Xbox.
I will say that probably my Xbox 360 is the console that I put the most time into in the history of me. I loved that stupid thing.
Is that like your favorite console? Like if we're gonna like list favorite consoles of all time, where would Xbox 360 be put on that?
It'd probably be on there because I'm just, again, like the time wise, because I'm thinking back to, and we've talked about this before, that high school and college is like peak gaming time, like zero responsibility. You're supposed to sit here and play the shit out of video games.
Life's really hard during that period, so we just spend most of our time. No, it's just like you guys, high school. I'll say high school is difficult, but like when you get older, you're like, oh man, playing video games all the time.
Had an hour of homework to do, and then I just sat there in my basement and played my Xbox. But no, but like to me, it's Halo, it's Gears of War, it's that thing was LAN parties back in the day. Was we'd all bring our Xbox 360s. It introduced online gaming, and I was super into online gaming with lots of games on there, and just I don't know. It's the console for me that was just. That is where like a lot of what I like in games was cemented, and that's where a lot of it came from. I mean, I played tons of PS2, tons of original Xbox, had my Genesis, had my Super Nintendo, all that stuff, but that's the one that I think I've put the most time into, and to me it's just, I don't know, it's been sitting there for 10 years, and I still go back to it every now and pop in a game because I have ungodly amounts of them, so...
I thought that was such a cool era of games, because I felt like that was kind of the first time that you didn't see as many compromises in games and just in general, like how they looked. It's like Gears of War, like that is a good looking game. That was like I remember way back when like next gen was still this like fleeting idea. When Gears of War pictures came out, I was like, you've got to be absolutely kidding me. It didn't look that good when it finally came out. We'll just make that clear, but it wasn't totally unrepresentative of what that final game looked like.
Was Killzone 2?
Oh, we'll talk about that when PS3 is discontinued.
Yeah, God. But no,
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I mean, and that was my system. That's the one. That or maybe the N64. Those two are up there.
That's so funny. Mine would definitely be probably PS2 and PlayStation 1.
But okay, list the systems you've owned, Doug.
Not Xbox. I've had Game Boys. I had a DS.
Game Boys. And PlayStation and PlayStation 2.
I love PlayStation, yeah. I had a lot of PlayStation consoles. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I like PlayStation. It's kind of. I actually really like the. I like the fact that I am like I know a lot about PlayStation. So whenever they talk about these old like, hey, old school gamers, here's that thing. It's like, oh shit, I know exactly what they're talking about. It's kind of cool just being a part of that sort of.
Unless it's a Nintendo or Microsoft game.
That would be actually a really interesting
Or
discussion.
Sega.
I'd like to talk about the differences between PlayStation and Microsoft and Nintendo, just like as a podcast one time. I think that'd be a really fun thing to talk about because like the reasons I like PlayStation, like why I don't really pick the other consoles.
Which is interesting because I've jumped all over.
Yeah,
the
you
go
all over the place. Well, I've been kind of like dedicated fanboy.
I'm trying to think like main system. So early it was Super Nintendo, then it was Nintendo 64, then it was PS2 and Xbox are about on par with me because I had a Xbox at my mom's house and a PlayStation 2 at my dad's house.
You were
and it was
so
just like,
as a kid, like honestly, kid logic would be like, "Oh man, Brad's so lucky."
His parents are divorced. He gets Xbox at one and
yeah, and you
PS2
get like twice
at the
as many
other.
presents on Christmas. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Not quite so much in real life,
No,
but
no.
hey, but yeah, but then it was like even there, and then it was Xbox 360, and now it's for sure PS4. So it's like I've kind of been all over the map just because it's which one seems to be the most appealing to me. And when this generation started, like I said, I was huge Xbox 360
Oh yeah,
all the way.
You got like you've legit got hundreds of Xbox 360 games.
Yeah, and I have like maybe a dozen and a half PS3 games.
Yeah.
And well, before PS Plus, but yeah, it's just to me it's more of sitting there and looking at and going, which one has the games right now, and do I know the rumors of what's coming for this one versus this one? And it was just PS4's got what I want right now. So
yeah, PS4 they had a really really good marketing campaign to begin with the whole For the Gamer thing. Although like really like at the conclusion of this, Xbox One had some really really good console exclusives.
For sure.
So I think they could have stayed competitive. I just think that their message was kind of borked from the beginning. So
yep.
Yeah. Totally unrelated news. Tekken Cross Street Fighter is no longer in development. Kind of a harsh segue. I didn't really have a nice segue for that.
No, you didn't at all. That was poorly done.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I usually have pretty good
Subpar.
segues, but this one I did not.
Subpar.
Yeah.
That's almost as bad as my segues.
This one actually makes me legit sad because I was actually genuinely excited for this game.
See, I was too. Did you play Street Fighter Cross Tekken the other way?
I did not because I don't like Street Fighter games, but I do like Tekken games.
See, and that game was just it felt like a subpar Street Fighter. So like as soon as I played that, it was just kind of this like, ugh. It's like that like middle ground Tekken. It's not Tekken 7, which I really want. It's got some of the tendencies of Tekken 6, but it just I don't know. After playing Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it was kind of that I don't think this is going to be the game that I want it to be. It's going to feel kind of that middle era one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like kind of like Tekken Tag on PS2, like the first one.
Exactly. And even Tekken Tag 2.
Tekken Tag 2 I think is a little bit different because that was like a retrospective like on the entire series thus far. While Tekken Tag 1 was just kind of like, we need a PS2 game. We need a launch game like now. It's kind of interesting because Akuma was just announced for, like not just announced, but Kate was announced like fairly recently for Tekken, for Tekken 7, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's clear like I think they had a few test characters that were kind of like getting near finalized. Akuma was definitely the first one that was done.
And they're just like, shit, well, we're going to cancel this, so we got all this, we put the time in, throw it in there, and call it a bonus character. I'm gonna call this now. Goddamn, I'm still so mad about that April Fools. There was no Jet Moto in Drive Club. Anyway, calling this one though. That you're gonna see a shit ton of Street Fighter DLC for Tekken 7 in the near future. That'll be like the first character pack is gonna be the Street Fighter character pack.
Yeah, or like Ryu's probably. I'm sure Ryu's done. I'm sure there's like a few that like clearly they were. Yeah, like those like main. I guess the Street Fighter 2 cast, like the main guys from there would probably be like. Not done, but closer development. I'm sure that's just going to come out as DLC. So, Tekken's always kind of a weird series. I kind of like that one. I like Tekken 3 a lot, but not because of the actual fighting game. It's like all the extra shit that was in it. So I like the extra shit that's in Tekken games. That's not even that good, but it's kind of silly. That's the stuff I like about Tekken games. But yeah.
Hey, that stuff's good. What was the last one? Tekken 6.
I never played Tekken 6.
Not platinumed. Whatever the Xbox equivalent is. 1,000 gamers scored it. whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
1,000 Gamer
That's
Score.
got to be. Yeah. There's got to be an actual
Yeah.
word for that. We'll have to ask a high schooler.
Rude. Um, but yeah, no, like that one like had the stupid like arcade brawler mode that took like 6 hours and was so bad.
Oh
I
yeah.
played the whole damn thing like twice.
Tekken, was it like Tekken Force mode? I like Tekken Force.
Yeah, it was basically Tekken Force mode. Yep.
Yeah, I remember actually do remember playing a little bit of that. I was like, wow, this control's really weird. Like even like Tekken Force, like Tekken 3, Tekken Force was like it kind of played okay because it's just like a Streets of Rage sort of
Yep.
side scroller brawler, so it sort of worked. But yeah, when I played Tekken 6 because they tried to do like a full 3D brawler thing, it was
Oh yeah, it was painfully bad.
like.
But I played the hell out of it because it wasn't a Tekken game.
So a new Super Giant game was announced, Pyre, which is a cool name, cool trailer, cool reveal trailer. We'll talk about.
Very cool reveal trailer.
Actually, before this podcast, me and Brad is a. We'll talk about this. We'll get into it. But Brad is actually a really big Super Giant fan. From what our talks are, you really like Super Giant games.
For sure.
And he was all super excited about this. I was like, "Oh, did you see that new footage? Because there's some new footage released like really recently, like in the last 2 days or so." And after we saw the footage, it was kind of like, "Oh, that's what Pyre is."
I should have not watched that. I should have just watched the cool reveal trailer, which told you literally nothing but just looked pretty and said there's a Super Giant game. Who did Bastion and
Yep.
Transistor,
Yep.
which are two fantastic games. Bastion's one of my favorites. Transistor was not Bastion, but it was good.
I don't like either of those games at all. But I realize like that's like totally a game for somebody else. You know, I should love them. They're like action RPGs. I don't know why I don't like those.
Especially Bastion. I feel like Bastion would be exactly your type of game.
I know it would be, and I started playing it. You know what it is? I thought the enemy character designs were like kind of stupid looking. I think that's literally my only excuse for not being
You don't play games for the
in that game.
dumbest reasons. Dumbest reasons.
It is a bad reason. It's a legit bad reason. But I was like, oh, they're just like kind of like you see this in so many games. It's the hooded figure. You can't see their
Yeah.
face, and they have the glowing eyes, and that's like every character in
Jawas.
the game.
They're Jawas.
Yeah.
Just pretend you're Luke Skywalker and have fun.
I just didn't want to fight evil Jawas for like 6 hours. That's a really horrible way to. That is a good game. I'm well aware that's a good game. It's just not quite for me.
But yeah, I don't know. Watching the gameplay for this, I could not pick up what this was. And Transistor was like this too. Transistor had a very, very weird battle system gameplay thing. And this just looked, I don't know. It looks like Blitzball. That's like the first thing that came to mind when I saw this is they played some Blitzball and thought we should do that right.
Yeah, but doing that right is just making a lot like a real time Blitzball game, not like the turn based. There actually are a few turn based sports games. Like this is not the first turn based sports game. Blood Bowl is probably the only big one that I can think of off the top of my head. But like, yeah, I think we both saw the gameplay. It's like, oh, this is like multi. It kind of seemed like it's not. It's probably not multiplayer only, but it seemed like a multiplayer only game. You're in a very specific...
there was very specific story stuff happening in that gameplay where you could see cutscenes and dialogues and such. So I feel like there's some single player in it, but I'm sure there's a big online component.
Yeah, but I'm saying like the actual gameplay itself is like it's an arena style multiplayer turn-based game.
Which not really big into those.
No, and yeah, I kind of gave me a sour taste because this is like because I usually don't quite like their enemy designs and stuff. I did like how Transistor looked a lot though. But
yeah, it was
and this one looked like the coolest. And as soon as I saw the gameplay, I was like, shit. Like your Blitzball analogy is perfect. And I think we both, neither of us particularly care for Blitzball.
As you shouldn't.
Pete, man, it blows my mind that people like 100% of Blitzball. That just like how did you do that? How did you not?
In my mind, I didn't mind it, and then I played the HD re-release about a year ago, and I mind it quite a bit.
Yeah. Like I was reading up how to get like the ultimate weapons. Like you have to play this much Blitzball. I was like, no.
You wish.
Yeah. So there's some Arkham news, like kind of weird Arkham news. This is sort of like a weird kind of leak thing. The Arkham Collection is coming out, and there is no Origins. Actually, the news is not that there's an Arkham Collection coming out. I think everybody sort of expected there's going to be an Arkham Compendium. The news is more that there's no Origins included, which is
odd.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, and I feel like this might actually. I think a lot of people are mad that like, well, that was a legit Arkham game. Like we played it. I didn't like it, not because it was better or worse than the other Arkham games, but just because it was so similar to the other Arkham games.
Yeah, the story wise was pretty interesting with like the Joker and how that all tied in, and
it's probably the best story elements. Actually of all the Arkham games.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things, and we talked about this. I know we both talked about this together when we were talking about Arkham Knight before. Is that it got old, and that was kind of the point in the series where it hit home that, okay, yep, this is the same combat, the same way, done the same style as before. But
Yeah.
it's weird that it doesn't fit in there, especially considered, this was the first one that wasn't Rocksteady, and it's the only of the four that wasn't Rocksteady, but it was still billed as, no, this is a full game. This isn't like a halfway like Batman Arkham 2.5. This is Batman Arkham 3.
Hmm.
Even though Rocksteady didn't make it, it's still part of the game. It's still part of the timeline. It's still canon. It's still all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And here we are 4 years later, and it's like, it's not part of the collection.
Yeah, it's kind of shitty because Arkham Knight actually does reference Arkham Origins like quite a bit.
Yeah,
There's more than just there's like a few Easter eggs, but there actually is some like story points that kind of call back to Arkham Origins. So it's kind of it felt I'm hoping that I think this might just be a contractual issue more than anything.
yeah, with it being a different studio and everything. And
Yeah, because I know that there's the rumored Bioshock collection that might be coming out soon, which is going to be a day one purchase for me. Um, that they actually will have Bioshock 2 included. So like that
yeah,
was kind of a similar game, whereas it kind of what is a game that used a lot of assets from the other game, different studio, while the main studio was working on Infinite. So I don't know, it just feels kind of like it kind of sucks. I mean, neither of us particularly like that game, but it being not included kind of hurts.
yeah, for sure.
And kind of the final news we'll get into Mafia 3. I kind of had forgotten about this game until until they had started showing all the gameplay and the story trailers, and this is actually coming out near the end of the year, October 7th. I have really strong opinions about this game. Um, you should start. You should start. What is your impression of Mafia 3?
I loved Mafia 2.
Yep.
I am curious about everything I saw so far. I'm still in the same place where it's like, okay, yep, I like Mafia 2. I'll give this a try. I'm still not big on open world games, but the thing that swung me over with Mafia 2 was the story.
Mhm.
It felt slightly different just in the way the characters were portrayed. The characters made sense to me. My big issue, and I haven't played a Grand Theft Auto game in years, is
Yeah.
those characters always just all were assholes. It's like
Oh yeah, yeah,
you interacted with 50 different assholes, and
yeah.
Mafia 2 is like you interact with like 10 assholes, like four mob bosses who are a little assholey, but there's
Yeah.
some nice people in here too who are just trying to help you out and just trying to get on with their lives. Whereas Grand Theft Auto is just everybody's an asshole.
That's true. Like I think Grand Theft Auto, because I think a lot of people who are looking at Mafia 3, it's like, oh, it's Grand Theft Auto in 1960. It's like, well, no, Grand Theft Auto is just full of caricatures of
Yeah.
people, and Mafia at least had some semblance of like taking these characters seriously.
Yep.
Um, and that's actually one thing I did notice with the Mafia 3. The story trailers I freaking love. I think
Oh, for sure.
the
The
story
story.
trailers in this look freaking it's cool. It's like it seems like a guy who is part of the Black Mafia in New Orleans or had some sort of gang relation in New Orleans gets kind of like he gets actually in the trailer. This is not a spoiler. He actually gets shot by like somebody from the Italian mob, and then he
Yeah.
wakes up, and then it's him going against the Italian mob. And I was like, oh, that's kind of that's a neat story. Um,
Yep.
but man, the gameplay in this looks like Grand Theft Auto. It looks like
Yep.
no, it doesn't look. Mafia 2 is not Grand Theft Auto. I think if you went back and look at that game, the open world is not really an open world. It's sort of like a hub that you go from like point A to point B.
Yeah. Yep.
But this is like,
And it's
sorry.
it's slow too.
Oh yeah,
That is not a like I'm gonna drive my Ferrari at 90 miles an hour down the city. It's like I'm gonna get in my beat up old station wagon and drive 40 miles down the middle of the road. Like
and make sure
the
I don't
pace
run
of
any
that,
like stoplights because otherwise the cops will still like pull me
yeah,
over.
the pace of that game is 100% different
Mhm.
from Grand Theft Auto. It's the same. It's the best I can think of is it's a good cross between like LA Noire and Grand Theft Auto. If you kind of put
Oh,
those right
that's a
in the
good idea.
middle,
Yeah.
is where Mafia slides in. It's not that huge story based where like the gameplay is just kind of shit, but the the mechanics of it, and or not the mechanics,
The
the story
story.
of it and the feeling of it of LA Noire with the gameplay feel of Grand Theft Auto but at a slower pace.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me about the gameplay is it looks like we're gonna make these old timey cars look just like they do in Grand Theft Auto, and we're gonna make this like just as explosive as Grand Theft Auto. It's like, well, no, you're in a different time period. Like things need to be calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of weird. Like the violent explosive parts of Mafia 2 were like huge set pieces. They were treated as
Yeah.
set pieces. Like they were
Yep.
not common occurrences. Like when an explosion happens in Mafia 2, you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
something bad happened. And this one, it just looked like side missions had like cars rolling over, and like you're doing like the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where like leaning outside the car and shooting guys and stuff. It's like, wow, this is like not Mafia. And they also had this is one thing I just hate about games in general now is execution moves. Like there's a ton of weird execution moves, like shooting guys in the face with shotguns and stuff. I was like, hey man, and it's so weird because these story trailers seem so serious and well centered and have this like nice world building, and then they show the gameplay, which has like one of the things I noticed when the gameplay that like really made me flinch was when a guy like he shot you above his head, it told you he was an enforcer, and then when he dropped his shotgun, like the shotgun was labeled. It like literally said the word shotgun above the shotgun on the ground, and I was just like, oh, that's like the gamey aspects
Yeah.
of Grand Theft Auto. It's like it's not Mafia. Um,
Yeah.
which is really weird because I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, "Oh, this story doesn't seem like Mafia." It's like, no, I'm actually super excited for the story.
Yeah.
It's just the gameplay doesn't look like anything.
It really feels like there's two different teams working on this. Like there's a
Yeah.
story team and a gameplay team, and nobody bothered to send an email back and forth. Just based on what's come out now. Now again, this is all purely based on videos we've seen. So
Yeah.
maybe maybe what we're seeing are the big set piece moments, but there's an awful lot of them if they are, and they seem a bit blended in.
Yeah, but honestly, like the guys who are doing the gameplay, I can see why. I mean, Mafia 2 didn't sell boatloads, and I can see why because that game didn't have a lot of explosions. That game is a hard game to like describe to people. Like, it is a really awesome third-person cover-based shooter. I'd say it's actually one of the best third-person cover-based shooters. Um, but it's not super bombastic, and it's kind of hard to advertise.
For
So
sure.
I can see why people who are making Mafia 3 would be pressured to make a game that is really good for cutting trailers. And so I'm
Well, and
hoping
especially
that kind of what you were saying, that like those are the sort of bombastic moments that aren't as common.
Well, and especially when you look at where open world games are today, it's Grand Theft Auto, it's Saints Row, it's Infamous, it's all these super over the top games. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? There's not that classic subdued kind of, okay, we're going to focus on the storytelling, and yeah, you have this open world, but there's a linear story that we want to
Witcher
tell.
3 might fit under that, but I'd agree that most games aren't like that.
Yeah, I haven't played Witcher 3, so
That's for
oops.
the best.
Oops.
I don't-
There's a good way to end an episode with Doug insulting the pretty much unanimous game of last year.
I can get why people like that game, but oh my god. But I also don't. There's a few other games I don't quite like, but again, any game I don't like, I understand this game is probably just not for me.
Yep.
So that'll do it for the news portion of Workforce Gaming. If you like what you heard, you can always subscribe to us on YouTube. You can. I'm not sure. Do you subscribe on iTunes?
I think so.
You can subscribe to us on iTunes. Whatever you're listening to us on, just click a little subscribe button. That would be great. You can also follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. If you like what you heard, yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
That was rambly. Bye.
Yeah, it's always rambling.